feedback. Excellent. Excellent. As you're doing now, I'm just going to ask you guys to, put questions in the chat box as we go. We're not going to do a dedicated Q&A. I'm going to kind of answer them throughout. So I will be looking and trying to answer as many questions as I can, but we have a full hour here of really good information. So I want to make sure that we get to it all too. Like I said, we will get started soon. I see some fellow Pennsylvanians. That is excellent. I'm in the Pittsburgh area, and I know part of Pennsylvania got hit really hard with effects from the hurricane. So hopefully everybody is safe and doing okay. Somebody asked if I was going to share the slides after the presentation. I am not going to do that, but there is going to be a recording that is going to be sent out to you guys, I believe tomorrow. So you'll be able to rewatch it, I think, for up to a week. That way, if you want to take notes or, do anything like that, you'll have access to them. So first groupinar for some of you guys. I'm so glad you're joining. This is such a great feature. That's really nice that it's offered as part of your subscription. So I'm glad you're taking advantage. I've participated in a few and really gotten a lot out of them myself. So, all right, we got Las Vegas, Texas, UK, very nice, even international. I love it. I love it. Excellent. Okay, we're going to give maybe a minute or two and then we'll dive in. And if people keep joining, that's totally okay. Oh, Spain, Canada, Korea. Welcome, all of you. So excited to get to work with all of you today. Barbados, Norway. Oh, I love it. All places I would love to visit. New York City. Excellent. Excellent. Yes, definitely take advantage of the chat. It's a really nice feature. You'll be able to talk to each other, give me feedback, ask questions. So I definitely want it to be interactive for you guys. Kansas City, all right. Very good. Texas, I love it. All right, we are going to get started just because I want to make sure that we're, making the best use of our time and allowing you to get the most out of this. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to participate. So, the title of my presentation is called Enough: Conquering Codependence for Lasting Confidence. And my name is Lauren McCoy. Like I said, I'm from the Pittsburgh area, which is in Pennsylvania, originally from Massachusetts. So I saw some Massachusetts people on the call. I have a master's degree in counseling. I am a nationally certified counselor, a K-12 school counselor, and a licensed professional counselor. I've been in the field in total about 9 years, and I've worked in a whole bunch of different settings, K-12 schools, mental health clinics, and now BetterHelp, which I really love and I'm excited to be a part of. And so, this webinar is built off of everything that I have learned through my education and experience with clients. But more importantly, it's also built off of my own personal experience with codependency. So I spent many years of my life being a people pleaser, struggling to set boundaries, working through perfectionism and really looking for validation from other people. So that was a lot of burden to carry, very depleting over the years. And so I really, really took to this topic for myself. And I'm really excited to be able to share some solutions with you that have worked for not only me, but also for a lot of clients that I've worked with. And so I am going to invite you to take this time and really dedicate your full time and attention to the training. Close the windows that you might be looking at, put your phone on airplane mode, just kind of do all those things to really be able to focus and take it in. And the real, besides just the fact that, I want to have your full attention, it also is really a gift you're giving to yourself because you're taking time out of your really busy schedule to focus on you and to do something that's going to benefit your mental health. So it's an act of self-care. And it's really the first step to trying to break some of the codependent habits that we all maybe have some struggles with. So as I said before, use the comment box, help each other, talk to each other. I'm going to be checking on it and trying to answer questions as I go. But really, I want it to be interactive so that I'm making sure that you're getting what you need. So the goal from this presentation is to see how codependent thinking and habits may be keeping you stuck and playing small in your life, making you feel anxious, stressed, spinning, burned out, and replaying unconscious patterns that may not be serving you. The beauty of learning more about ourselves is that these habits are changeable. So I and many of my clients are living proof that there is another way to live. You can break free from codependency and gain confidence in yourself. It does take work, but it's very possible and very rewarding. So we are going to talk all about what codependency is. I see somebody asked that. That's definitely where we're going to start. But what I'm going to ask you guys to do is type a 1 in the chat box if you're familiar with the term codependence, if you think you have some idea of what it might be, and a 2 if you're completely new to it, you're unsure what it means, and you're just wanting to learn more. So I see a lot of 1s, a couple of 2s in there. I love it. Very good. Very good. So we got a good mix. I just like to see where we're starting from. It's totally okay if you've never heard of it. I love that you're open to just checking it out and learning. And if you have some familiarity, hopefully I can build on that. So we are going to move forward here with what is codependence. So what does it mean? There's really 2 parts to this definition. The first is that we often lose touch with who we are as individuals because we care a lot more about what other people want and need than we do care about ourselves. And then the second piece of it is that we gain our sense of self-worth from external sources rather than from within ourselves. Okay. So we tie our value and our identity to something outside of us. That may be having a particular job or having success at work. It could be being in a relationship. It could be being a parent or taking care of extended family members. It could be my physical appearance, what I look like, my health, my weight, my salary, or a particular job title. Okay. Yeah. I love that somebody said that they thought codependence only related to relationships. Exactly. That's the most common definition, is feeling that you need to be in a relationship to be whole and complete. And that certainly is a possibility, but in all reality, it can be something larger than that. I have a lot of clients who say, oh no, I'm very independent. That's not me. I don't need to be in a relationship, but they really stress out over what people think of them at work, or they need their house to always look perfect because of what other people might think. So it can come from so many different things, but all of them are outside of ourselves. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting a particular career or wanting to be in a relationship or wanting to take care of your health. None of that is bad in and of itself. But when that's the sole way that we feel worthy, and the only thing that we see as a huge part of our identity, that's when it can cause some struggles for people. So, we're going to dive into kind of what some of those struggles might be, just to kind of see if you can relate to it. But overall, with codependency, we believe that we are responsible for other people's emotions, and that it is our job to make sure that everyone else is okay. Think about somebody who goes, maybe is working in construction and they have one of those headlights that they wear to be able to see in dark, places. That spotlight is shining outward. It's always looking at, what's around me? How is everyone else doing? What's going on? That spotlight never gets turned on ourselves. And so we are so focused on everybody else's wants, needs, serving them, making sure they're okay, that we completely forget about ourselves. We channel our own wants and needs onto other people as a way to unconsciously avoid having to address our own childhood wounding and feel some pretty uncomfortable feelings. And I love what you guys are saying. You're giving a lot of reasons why you connect to this, and you're right on. So many of them are going to come up in this talk. So I'm really excited. You guys are really on the same wavelength, which is awesome. So, this is kind of your general definition. And then you might say, well, do I display codependence, or am I just a driven person who wants to succeed? How do I differentiate? Well, the phrase that's really common to put with codependency is, if you're okay, then I'm okay. Okay. So we're basing our own emotional wellness on making sure that everyone else has what they want and need and feels happy. Here's an example. If you think about, you're on a date at a restaurant, everything's going well, you're enjoying it, and then the food comes, and the person that you're on a date with is not pleased with their food, and they're complaining and they're upset, and you just feel the whole tone of the date change. And all of a sudden, you feel the need to step in and fix the problem and soothe them and reassure them, and you're feeling completely dysregulated because they're not okay. And until you fix it or soothe them, then you can't have a good time. You can't enjoy your food. Maybe you don't even eat, or you give them your food. Okay. So in all of these situations, in this situation and other ones, we're on a roller coaster where somebody mentioned emotional roller coaster. Exactly. You can't get on, you can't get off. You have no control. If the other person's happy, you're okay. If they're not happy, you're a mess, right? And it's really draining. Oh my gosh. The other thing is, it's a losing battle because we don't have control over anyone else's feelings or their life situation. We just don't. So it's if we're trying to take that control, we're not going to be able to ultimately win. And this can create an identity that is often worn as a badge of pride. I'm the person who always does for everyone else. I'm the one who everyone comes to for advice. I'm the one who people can count on in my family, in my friend group, in my relationship, right? That can make us feel good about ourselves and like we're making worthy contributions to the world. But in excess, it leads to perfectionism, people-pleasing, overworking, and overall an intense focus on what other people think of us. Okay. And we value other people's opinion of us, or what we think their opinion of us is, over our own opinion of ourselves. In fact, we often don't even ask ourselves, what do I think of this? What is my opinion? We skip right to what everybody else wants. So a couple of you are kind of asking about finding that balance between codependence and selfishness. I'm so glad you asked that. That's a really, really common question. And we are going to get to that in a little bit. So we're going to get to it. And then if it doesn't answer your question, we can dive deeper into that. And a couple of you are mentioning narcissists tend to really be attracted to codependent people. And I would say codependent people sometimes are also attracted to narcissists. So we'll kind of get there too as to why. But just fill me in a little bit. Is this resonating? Can you relate? Or maybe if it's not you, can you see it in other people in your life? That it's kind of interesting. Once you learn a lot of this stuff, you start to spot it kind of everywhere. Yeah, maybe within your family too. Very good. Very good. Okay. So let's get into some of the long-term effects of why is this such a big deal, especially if there feels like there's a payoff at times because it makes us feel good about ourselves. Years and years of codependent behavior can lead to anger, can lead to resentment. It can lead to burnout because basically we're not living a full, authentic life. Our life is to serve other people. And over time, we get pretty upset because we say, why is nobody looking out for me? It can also cause health issues because there is a mind-body connection. So the anger, the resentment, that is more of the mental, emotional effects. But physical effects really have been tied to codependency. Things like autoimmune issues, hypertension, chronic fatigue, inflammation. even just wearing down your immune system. So some of you are talking about being tired very easily, being hospitalized, just feeling like you catch every bug and virus that shows up. Yes, there is that connection. When we're completely depleted and we're not taking care of our own needs, it is going to lead to some effects on our health long term. Yeah, irritable bowel, definitely. I've heard a lot with digestive and gut issues related to this. So very good. Okay, now, so sounds like a lot of you are resonating. And so I want, I'm a big fan of why, where did this come from? How did this start? Right. And so I think it's interesting to look at the roots of codependency. That's not to blame anyone or anything. It's just to have more compassion for ourselves as to why we act in this way. So and somebody asked about burnout. We are going to get to burnout and what exactly that looks like and why it happens. It's related to our nervous system being kind of on high alert all the time. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. I always like to say I don't call a person a codependent. Okay. I usually say, we have codependent tendencies, codependent patterns, codependent habits, any of those things. And you might say, what's the big deal? Like, who cares what the difference is? When somebody identifies as a codependent, that kind of sounds like it's a permanent part of them. It's a label. It is something that cannot be changed. When in actuality, these are a set of learned habits and patterns. And we can shift them as we gain knowledge and awareness and we learn other skills. Okay, so codependent tendencies generally stem from childhood. And, a lot of things that happen in our adult life have some roots back in childhood, but it doesn't mean that you have to have come from an intense trauma background to have developed these habits. You could have, but it is possible to have what you might consider a relatively typical, even happy childhood and still experience perfectionism, people pleasing, codependent tendencies. Okay. So I think sometimes people feel that can't be me because I felt like I had my needs met, right? The roots in the family blueprint, it goes back to specific events that may have happened in childhood. One of the possibilities is that it was modeled by a family member. Yep, a mother taught their child to put everyone before themselves. Exactly. Typically, it's the mother or the female caregiver. Okay. That's that mom who always put herself last. She gave and gave and gave to everyone else, never worried about herself, never made herself seem human, basically. Think about the mom who has everyone over for dinner and she is making all the food and won't let anyone help. And then she serves the food and she doesn't even sit down to eat it because she's up getting everybody else everything they need. And then when dinner's over, she hasn't even eaten and she's cleaning up so that everybody else can sit and relax. Okay. And we kind of grow up thinking that's the ideal mom. That's what you do when you're a mom. And it doesn't have to be mom. It can be dad. It can be any caregiver. Okay. In actuality, this self-sacrifice is really encouraged in our society. Okay. Especially for those who are socialized as women, right? In both explicit and implicit ways, it's understood that we should put our own needs below other people in order to be considered a good wife, a good mother, a good daughter, etc. And if you do otherwise, it can get that label of being selfish and you can be looked down upon. Definitely not only women, I've seen it with men as well, but it's kind of stereotypically seen with women. So, it is possible that we're like sponges when we're kids. We soak up everything. So if you see that, even if your mom doesn't, or your female caregiver doesn't say to you, you need to do this, you just witness it and you soak it in and you adopt it, right? Other possibilities, if that is not your situation, okay, and there is a lot of them, codependent habits can be a survival skill in childhood. Okay. They can develop as a child because we had to do things maybe that we didn't want to do. or we were put into an adult role before we were ready. So could be some examples, taking care of siblings from a young age, having little adult supervision, or almost being a therapist to a high need parent. Think about a parent who maybe has untreated mental illness or substance abuse, maybe a parent who is in a domestic abuse relationship, a parent who has dramatic and unpredictable mood swings or outbursts, maybe because they're under an extreme amount of stress themselves, maybe because they are not taking care of their own needs, because they never learned how to do that, right? So then as a child, by taking on that caretaker or peacemaker role as a kid, that was a way to feel safe. That was a way to keep other people happy or try to keep other people happy. Also a way to potentially earn validation. And these are all things that kids, but really even people, want. We want to be safe emotionally as well, not just physically. We want to be loved, validated, accepted. So we will do whatever it takes to try to get that. Another sort of different example, if a child is only given praise by their parents when they perform or excel, okay, say getting good grades, competing in sports, performing in competitions, he or she may feel as though their worth is tied to performance, to winning, to being the best, okay? In that situation, then they grow up as adults and feel they need to have a certain career, make a certain amount of money, be at the top of their game when it comes to their job or their, another part of their life. And that is because we feel that is our identity. That is where our worth comes from. And that's how we're going to get love, is when we do well. When in actuality, just by being born, just by existing, you are perfect and deserve love and deserve to have all of your needs met. You don't have to earn that, but you internalize that message as a kid. Another situation, a child who maybe is the sole focus of their parents' attention. So you can see this is almost the opposite of the initial thing where the child is becoming the adult. If the child is really, the parents live vicariously through the child and their success, that puts a lot of pressure on that kid to be perfect, to live up to expectations, to receive love and validation. So think about this, you stop even asking, what do I want and what do I need? Because you're so focused on what do my parents want and expect. And that somebody said only children. Yes, you can see this with only children. You can also see it with single parents, families, and then you sometimes can see it with first generation Americans. I know somebody mentioned kind of immigrant families when kids know that their parents, came to another country and sacrificed a lot for them to have a better life. They feel as though sometimes they need to fulfill their parents' expectations to prove that they appreciate and recognize the gift. So these are just some examples. Another one could be if a child was left out, bullied, or mocked by other students, siblings, other central figures in their life, right? That child is desperate for a sense of connection and acceptance. So they change who they are to fit in with other people's vision of who they should be, right? Yes, being bullied is a really common one. If we feel different or other, we basically become a chameleon who tries to blend in. We don't speak up. We do what everyone else wants, because we feel like that is the way to avoid negative, unwanted attention or criticism, okay? And, you may see that in an adult who does not want to be the center of attention, even for positive things. I can remember myself, I did not want, on my birthday, I did not want people to look at me and watch me open gifts or sing happy birthday to me. One time I was in a restaurant and my friends organized that the whole restaurant would sing happy birthday. I was mortified. I didn't want the attention. And it just doesn't feel safe. Okay. So these are just some of the possible reasons. Definitely not an exhaustive list, but they're kind of the most common ones that I see as reasons for codependency to develop. Okay, so that's childhood. Now we fast forward to an adult who maybe has had these patterns for years. It manifests as a strong sense of not wanting to let other people down at all costs. Okay, and that can be accomplished through sacrificing our own need for rest, a focus on making everything look and seem perfect to the outside world. Some of you are resonating with this, which I felt the same way as I learned about all of this. It was like, you're reading my mind. How do you know what's in my head? Type A achievers, right? Someone who wants to exert control to feel safe. I'm thinking of some people who always have to be the driver when they're in a car, or they always have to drive separately so they have a way to leave the situation if they need to. They don't like that feeling of possibly being trapped. Okay. Pleasing other people can become more important than anything else, more important than taking care of ourselves. And we try to protect other people's feelings because we want to be seen as nice, as good, as compassionate, as helpful to those around us, even at the expense of our own needs. Also, difficulties with decision making. Think of a big decision you might have to make. Do you poll everyone in your life to try to figure out what you should do? And then kind of freak out when you get all different opinions because how can you please everybody? Never once asking, what do I think? We don't trust in our own divine inner guidance that tells us we know what's best for ourselves. So, this is some of the things you might be feeling on a day-to-day basis. Okay. And I do want to take a moment to just say, I'm throwing a lot at you guys. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling triggered by any of this, if it's bringing up stuff that maybe you didn't know was there, it is okay to take a break, to leave the room, to get a drink of water, to even turn off the webinar and come back to it later. I certainly don't want you to be in a situation where you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't have the support that you need in that moment. Okay. So basically, take care of you, go at your own pace, and really we take those small baby steps. Okay. And yes, there will be a replay, so you can kind of go at your own pace for sure. All right. So the cornerstone of codependency is the idea that we can control or change other people's minds. And if you think about it, that is an unconscious form of manipulation, be that we're trying to take away their feelings or control how they view us, right? We're trying to do that because we don't feel safe to be ourselves. It doesn't feel like we could possibly be loved or accepted for just who we are, because maybe it hasn't been safe in the past. We believe we can protect other people from feeling a certain way or having certain thoughts. And in doing so, we are basically saying we don't trust that other people can cope with their feelings, that they can't handle it if they're sad, if they're angry, if they're disappointed, if they're uncomfortable. And it's our job to save them from those feelings. This can show up in big and small ways in our daily lives. Okay. Choosing a restaurant based on what your partner would like, even if that place has no food on the menu that you can eat. I've seen people who have really bad food allergies and they go and eat the food anyway. And they know they're going to be sick for days afterwards, but they feel like they cannot step up and say, hey, there's nothing on that menu that works for me. Or you go to your mother-in-laws or your father-in-laws, and they make something and you feel like you have to eat it because it would be rude if you didn't, even if it's going to cause you physical harm. Okay. It could be that your friend asks you to move and you automatically say yes to help, even though you're exhausted, even though maybe you're sick or maybe you're overwhelmed. Okay. Agreeing to stay late at work or picking up extra shifts every time you're asked, even though you have other plans. Okay. Choosing a career or a partner in order to please your parents or your family member, even when you know that person's not right for you or that career is not right for you. Okay. These are just some examples of how codependency can show up in our day to day, and we don't even realize it because we basically are just so used to doing it that we don't think twice. We don't even know there's another way. So that's part of what this webinar is, to show you you do have other options if you so choose. Okay. All of this often comes from a feeling that we don't deserve to rest or to feel good or to be happy, even though we want other people to have all of those things. And what I often pose to my clients and to myself when I catch myself in these patterns is, what makes us so different? Why does everyone else on the planet, we want to work so hard to make sure they have all of these things, but we are in a different category and we don't deserve it? Okay. That's sort of just something to think about. Now, long term, you may already be feeling this way. You may get to be feeling this way in the future if things continue, or you may know people who feel this way. Shut down, withdrawing, growing distant, feeling anxious, having tension in the body all the time that we just live with and don't even think about it. Depression, all of this coming from suppressing our own wants and needs repeatedly. And when I start asking questions to clients, what do you want? What do you need? How do you feel? They will be uncomfortable and say, I don't know. I can't answer that, right? That is because they've spent so long denying what they want and need that they are so disconnected from it. Okay. And when we talk about burnout, that is a lot of these symptoms that I'm describing here are symptoms of burnout. Okay. An intense fear of conflict with other people, because it could lead to not being liked, being rejected, or being looked upon negatively in some way. There's a fear of failure. If I'm not perfect, I won't get my needs met, and it doesn't feel safe. I don't deserve to have my needs met, so I have to earn that right by doing for everybody else, almost like earning your existence on this planet. We don't trust in ourselves to make decisions, so we're swayed by everybody else's opinions. And this is really, I'm curious if any of you guys resonate with this, because I hear it almost every single time when I work with clients who are going through some codependent symptoms. It's holding these two different ideas at once, that I'm not good enough, and also that I am way too much to handle. And it's so interesting that we can feel kind of two opposite things at the same time. But I hear people say so often that when they have any sort of a need, they're too much. They're too much. They're asking for too much, and they're going to drive people away. And it just makes my heart hurt, because basically they're saying their existence is a burden. And so they need to shrink themselves down and not take up too much space. And then if they do take up any amount of space, they're apologizing like crazy. Yes, a lot of you are mentioning the burden. That's definitely, feeling like a burden. Yes, yes. So I'm here to tell you that having wants and needs and feelings, and that is not a burden. That is being a human being. And every single person deserves that opportunity. So a lot of you have been asking, okay, this is me. What do I do about it, right? I totally understand. I'm a jump to action person myself, okay? So I'm going to break some stuff down for you. And this is a huge topic. So this is really just an overview, okay? A lot of you are saying, I'm in my 30s. I'm just finding this out. I'm so frustrated. I get it. It really wasn't until probably I was in my late 20s that I started putting these pieces together. And I had been in the field, in the therapy field for some time by then. So this stuff it's really common, and it's not something that a lot of people realize. So I don't want you to beat yourself up. Instead, I want you to say, but now it's right. It's never too late to change. When you know better, you can do better. But until you knew better, how could you be expected to change? It's not really fair to expect yourself to have knowledge that you were never given. And like I said, this stuff is pretty pervasive in our society. So, yeah, I'm glad that you're here. So, okay, let's jump into what are some things you can do to change. The first thing to keep in mind is that this codependent habits were a survival skill. They provided you with some benefits as a child. You did not have control over your circumstances. No kids do, right? We can't control how the family operates, how people interact with us, what we're taught and shown and modeled. So it's actually really smart to try to find ways as a child to feel safe, to gain acceptance or love. Okay. And so when we are doing that as a kid, we're finding what works and then we stick with it. And I tell you this just so that you don't beat yourself up, but rather you say to yourself, wow, I did what I had to do to survive. And there are other ways now as an adult that I can try because I don't need to continue these codependent strategies. I'm now more developmentally and more emotionally mature as an adult. I have more resources and I have control. I'm not stuck or trapped in a situation like I was as a child. Okay. And so I can learn other ways to navigate, right? Healing our younger selves by examining what happened that led to codependent habits can be really, really powerful and life-changing. Yes, I love it, you guys. Really rooting each other on and just giving love to each other. That's wonderful support. It is hard work to do this, but the benefits are immense and they're really, really rewarding. So the beauty of our brain is that we can learn to use it as an asset instead of as an enemy. A lot of times we are our own worst enemies, our biggest, worst, meanest critics. Okay. And so the brain has neuroplasticity. And what's really cool about that is that we used to think the brain was set. When you became an adult, what was there, and that was it. You had to just deal with it. Okay. In actuality, our brain is capable of changing and learning new things. We can form new neural pathways through thinking different thoughts and making different behavior choices. Okay. That's why somebody who's had a traumatic brain injury is able to relearn how to function. It's because of neuroplasticity. Okay. How do you do it? It's a combination of two different things. One is called thought work and one is called somatic body work. And we're going to touch on both of those because they're really good places to start. And they're things I do on a daily basis. Okay. So thought work. What is thought work? Thoughts in our head often feel like facts. We think them on repeat and we don't question them often. We just accept them as truth. And in fact, a belief is really just a thought that we keep thinking over and over, and it kind of cements it as a belief. Our thoughts are very repetitive. They also can be quite negative. We're kind of wired for negativity as a survival skill, because if we didn't think about every threat, we could be eaten by a wild animal or not have food and shelter, way back in the day with our primitive ancestors. And so these scripts that run in our brain, kind of that conversation we have with ourselves, that running chatter all day that kind of we sort of tune out, that's part of the subconscious mind, sort of like being on autopilot. So think about when you get to work and then you have really no idea how you got there. You just kind of drove on autopilot because you were thinking about a million other things. That's sort of what happens with our thoughts and our habits. So the goal is to be able to increase your awareness of your thoughts and become your own watcher. Okay. The first step is awareness of what your thoughts are and how they're affecting you. And then you can start to question them and shift them and make some changes. So at first, you're going to have that knee jerk automatic reaction. And then you are going to start to make a connection by how does that thought make me feel emotionally? How does it feel in my body when I think that thought? Yes. What is the thought doing to my body? Love it, you guys. You're awesome. Okay. So here's an example. When I get invited to an event that I don't want to attend, what's your automatic first thought? Ugh, have to say yes. Gotta go to another thing I hate. Duty, obligation, should, right? All over the place. Okay. Tune in. How does thinking that way make me feel? Do I get sad? Do I get frustrated? Angry that they even asked me and put me in this position? Do I get withdrawn? Do I shut down? How do I feel in my body, right? Do I get that drop in my stomach, that heaviness in my chest, that sense of dread, that just like impending doom that comes over you? Do I get a headache? Tension in my jaw? What goes on when I think that I have to say yes? And it is really hard because these are so automatic for us. But when we start to make that connection between when I have this thought, it creates these feelings and it makes me react in a certain way. That's a huge step in starting to challenge those thoughts, set boundaries, and speak up for your own needs. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of really common thought patterns that you might be able to resonate with so that you can start recognizing when you catch yourself doing that. All right. First one is, I need to make sure that everyone else is happy at all costs. So use of the word should. When you notice a should, it is saying this thought pattern. Leads to resentment for other people and then guilt if we do decide to do anything for ourselves. We feel powerless, desperate, and worried, which is a huge burden. Here's the thought shift when that thought pops into your head, which it will. It still does for me at times. If someone truly cares about us, they want us to be happy. They want us to take care of ourselves. And if they don't, maybe they are not the right person to have in our lives, whether that's friend, family, relationship, whatever. Okay. Second one, I can't share my true opinions even when asked. Everyone must like me. My opinion doesn't matter. And I don't trust myself to make decisions. So if somebody says, hey, what movie do you want to go see? If your automatic first thought is, what movie do they want? What are they going to think of, my choice? Or, hey, put on some music. And you're paralyzed, like, oh my gosh, what if I put on the wrong music? What if they don't like it? You're not even thinking about what you like or what you want, right? Here's the deal. It's not loving to you or to anyone else to be dishonest about your wants and your needs. Consider if you want to be in a relationship with that person where you have to be a fake version of yourself to be loved or accepted, right? I know me, I am not my best self when I'm not being authentic or real. I'm irritable, I'm grumpy, I'm frustrated when I'm suppressing what I want and need all the time. Okay. So start taking those small steps in situations with a person where you feel safe. Make that choice. Suggest something. Even if you guys don't end up going to that movie or that restaurant, push yourself a little bit to suggest it. And start with somebody who you feel the most safe with to do that. You could even let them know that you're practicing these things so that they're aware that you're going to be trying to step outside of your comfort zone. But in time, as you practice it, it becomes more natural. Okay. Here's another one. I always need to apologize even for things that aren't my fault. Everything must be my fault. I'm a bother. I shouldn't speak up, right? This goes back to what we said before. We are not the cause of other people's emotions or their life situations. And it's not fair for us to take on that responsibility. We're in charge of our own thoughts, emotions, and life situations. Okay. Even if it's somebody you care about, you can be compassionate towards them for what they're going through without taking it on and without feeling you need to step in and fix it. Okay. And that is a very radical shift. So I totally get if that feels so outside of your comfort zone. Last one is I must always say yes so that people think highly of me and like me. That's the people pleasing. Needing to be considered a saint, a martyr, or a savior. I know a lot of you mentioned that with parents and, female caregivers in their life. It can also look the opposite and be called the fixer fantasy. That's telling people what to do and giving opinions without being asked. A lot of times we see that with moms and their adult children, is feeling the need to fix the family and overfunction to feel safe and secure. And that is often what they had to do in childhood. And they just haven't turned that off. They can even feel helpless, frustrated, and offended when people don't take advice or even rebel against them. Almost kind of feeling like it was a personal attack against them or an offense. Because of this, we don't believe that we're inherently good and worthy. And we think it's our job to help people and tell them what to do. We want to hear, you know best. I'm so lucky to have you. And we also want to keep the focus off of ourselves so we won't be judged. So it's like, I'm not somebody with problems. I have it all together, but I'm going to help you out, right? It's too painful to look at maybe what's going on in our own life. So we are putting that spotlight on everyone else, okay? I realize I am talking so much that we are coming up short on time. So I'm going to speed up a little just so that we make sure you can get to everything. I could just go on and on about this. Okay. The next part is somatic work. That's how it feels in our body. We often live in our heads. We know what we're thinking. We know maybe how we're feeling, but we're disconnected from our body and the way our body feels. They call that living above the neck. Okay. We forget that our minds and bodies are interconnected. So we have an overwhelming urge to be perfect, to serve everyone else's needs and be in control. That creates tension in our bodies. Okay. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone, is shooting through our body at rapid rates, leading us to feel exhausted, depleted, tense, achy, shut down, and burned out. Think about our nervous system. When we are in fight or flight, high anxiety, high alert, panic, stress, worrying about everybody else, that takes a toll. And eventually our system goes the opposite way and goes into shutdown. Hopeless, defeated, withdrawn, exhausted. Think about when you maybe were studying for exams, say for finals. You burn the midnight candle, and then when you get home after finals are over, you get really sick and you're in bed for a whole week trying to keep, heal and recover. That's because our nervous system is going back and forth between fight, flight, or freeze. Somebody mentioned that one. And the shutdown when we push it too far. And it can become addicting, yes. And so what we want to do is try to make sure that we're getting some of that middle time where we are in the rest and digest, where we are calm, where we can socialize, right? And how do we do that? There are things called somatic exercises that help teach our body it's safe to relax. Now, there is a million of these, and I'm just going to show you a couple because it could be overwhelming to kind of hit you with too many at once. But these are some things I would recommend doing on a regular basis, not just when you're, at a 10 out of 10 stress-wise, because they just retrain the body that it's safe to relax and it's safe to calm down. So I'm going to walk you through them quickly. There's a heart and belly hold, which is a Japanese healing modality. Okay. It's very comforting and supportive. And what you do is you take your one palm and you put it on your heart, and you take your other palm and you put it on your belly. And you take some long, slow, deep breaths, making sure that your exhale is longer than your inhale. So if you inhale for 4, then you maybe exhale for 6 or for 8. When your exhale is longer than your inhale, it signals to the body it is safe to relax. Okay. So hand on the heart, hand on the belly, taking some long, deep breaths and repeating to yourself, I am safe. It is safe to relax because our body doesn't feel that way. Okay. Possibly because of what we've been through. All right, another one. Alternate nostril breathing is a yogic practice. So I would encourage you to try these with me. You take a finger and you plug up one of your nostrils. You breathe in, switch, and breathe out through your nose. Okay, so, and by doing the alternate from one nostril to the other, that is helping to self-regulate the body and letting it know that it's okay. It's kind of it's bilateral. It's using both sides of the brain. Yes, if you are congested, that one's a little tricky sometimes, but, and yes, you do see that one in yoga at times. Okay, another one is called the VU humming. We have a vagus nerve that runs from our brain all the way down to our gut. And it has a lot of different nerve endings that goes to all different parts of the body. It's the longest nerve. When we are anxious, it is overreacting the vagus nerve. So we need to do something to stimulate it so that it calms down. Humming is a really good way to do that. When you hum, you feel a vibration in your throat. That is actually stimulating the vagus nerve. So if you have a favorite song, hum it. An even better one to do is called VU. When you say VU with a long O, you can feel the vibration. So what you want to do is take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, you want to say VU until you run out of breath. And if you do that a couple of times, then it is really, really letting the brain and body know, I'm calm, I can relax. That one you probably want to do when you're by yourself because it might be, a little disruptive, but, I'm trying to give you a variety of different topics and different ways to do this. Next, we have the gamut point tapping. That's an acupressure point. It is, if you take your pinky knuckle and your ring finger knuckle, and you find the fleshy part that's kind of right in between the two knuckles, that's the gamut point. If you tap on that really gently, that can release some pressure and some tension. So I would say doing this while you're taking some long, slow, deep breaths and talking to yourself in the kind and compassionate way. You can even do that under your desk at work. Like this one's pretty, sly. So I don't think people would know. You can also tap on your collar, right below your collarbone here on both sides. That's another point that can be relaxing. Okay. A lot of you are mentioning ice. Yes, ice. If you are really overstimulated, you can put cold water on your hands. You can hold an ice cube. Those are grounding things. They bring you back to the present moment and kind of shock your body back into the present. So that's a great one too. Like I said, there are a million different somatic exercises. You can even research it yourself and find YouTube videos and things like that. You want to find a bunch of tools that work for you. Okay. But once you regulate the body, you're able to then move into doing some of that thought work and challenge some of those automatic thoughts of needing to people please and be perfect and things like that. Yes, tapping, EFT tapping is a really good one. Great resource. The Tapping Solution has a free app with a lot of really, really good ones for anxiety. So check that out. Somebody mentioned that. Thank you. Okay. So as sort of a wrap up, our goal here is for you to become comfortable asking and identifying for what you want, setting and maintaining boundaries with other people. The app is the Tapping Solution. Just somebody asked that. Be able to put your own needs first. Be your own best friend, your own advocate, your own parent. This is really reparenting yourself, okay? It is turning the spotlight on yourself for the first time. And how do you do it? How do you get to know your own needs? Whoop, I might have skipped ahead here. Let me see. Yeah. You got to spend some time alone nurturing that relationship with you. Think about if you are getting to know somebody new. You have to spend time with them. You have to listen to them. You have to ask them questions with compassion. That is what you need to do for you. So you get to know yourself, right? Reflect, journal, do some breath work, try some meditation. Also, do something that you love for at least 15 minutes a day. Read a book, take a walk, listen to a podcast, call a friend. If you can't think of what you like to do, think back to when you were a kid. What were some things you enjoyed? If you liked to color or do something creative, try to find a new way to be creative. Painting, dancing, things like that. Practice making small decisions in your daily life. What do I want for breakfast? Do I want coffee or tea? Which way do I want to go to work? What do I want to order or make for dinner? Right? Like, if you're not sure, that's okay. Don't put pressure on yourself. Just try things out. The other thing you want to do is make and keep small, realistic promises to yourself to show you have your own back, okay? And to be able to say, you know what? I'm worth it. I am going to journal for 10 minutes. I am going to take a 5-minute extra long shower. I am going to paint my nails. Things like that. Make it small, make it realistic, and commit, and really, really don't put yourself last. Make sure that you do that. Builds trust in yourself, because the most important relationship we have is with ourselves, really. And it forms the basis for all of our other relationships, okay? So there is a little bit more that we aren't going to get to. I am repeating this webinar once a week for every week in September. So look for that. There will be a repeat. I may do a part 2. But basically, my main thing that I want you to hear is that self-love is not selfish. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Fill yourself up first and then give to everyone else from the overflow, so that you aren't resentful, so that you aren't angry. I'm my best self when I take care of me, because then I am happy and fun to be around. You deserve happiness. You matter. And shifting codependence is a lifelong process. So be compassionate, be gentle, go slow. When we heal ourselves, we really heal the world. So it is worth it to do this work, and you're going to break intergenerational patterns, which is huge. So here's my contact info. My name's Lauren McCoy. You can always request to work with me on BetterHelp. I am taking new clients. You can also email me, lauren.mccoy617@gmail.com, if you have questions, if you'd like some more support or you'd like some more resources. I would encourage you to fill out the survey, give me feedback. I really want to make sure you're getting what you need, or if you have ideas for future webinars, I would love it. I'm definitely working on more. Good luck on this journey. Take care of you. You matter. And I really hope that I get to work with all of you again. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.